Joining me in studio right now, Dr. Annette Teijeiro, who is going to be making a declaration of her own after we just got to talk to Dr. Joe Heck, saying he's going to run, instead of running for re-election to the 3rd Congressional, he's going for the Republican nomination for U.S. Senate. And Dr. Teijeiro, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Ellen, and thank all your listeners.
And you are here to make an announcement in your own.
I am going to make an announcement of my own, and I'm so glad that you could have me here today. I think that we all need to do our best to put our country back on track. So, I guess you want to hear what it is that I have to say. You want the announcement up front, huh?
I want it up front. Let's get right to it.
Well, since Joe is being so kind as to vacate the 3rd Congressional District, I am going to be running. That is my intention, to run for the 3rd Congressional District.
So you're looking to get the Republican nomination for the 3rd Congressional District, and then to beat whatever Democrat chooses to run.
That's absolutely right.
All right. So what motivated you to run for the 3rd Congressional?
Well, the 3rd Congressional District is actually where I have spent my home. I grew up in Congressional District 1, but of course back then everything was Congressional District 1. So things have changed, and since the census, we are now in Congressional District 3. But overall, here's the matter. I'm running for Congress because I am a woman with an extremely diverse background. I have so much experience to offer for the people inside of Congressional District 3. I am so excited to start. Look, the times that we're going by right now, I have a unique perspective. My father was from Cuba. We lost everything on that side of the family. I think that a lot of people are struggling right now. We need to be able to create an environment where America gets a jump start again to be the most economically stable and prosperous nation. Having had everything taken away, you realize just how important government can be in either providing prosperity or providing tyranny. So to me, it's very important. Also, you know, I'm a highly educated individual. I struggled. I do not come from a rich background. I worked my way through college and even medical school. I understand what it's like to pay back all of those loans. It's important that we have jobs for people when they finish their education. Not just that they get an education, but that they have jobs. And also, being a fiscal conservative, I think that we need limited, controlled government that doesn't spend our entire paycheck and leaves us something. You know, Barack Obama said he was going to bring change. Well, that change shouldn't have been the change in your pocket that's left over after he's done fleecing you. So, you know, I firmly believe in the Constitution. We've had a lot of strange court decisions come out, and I think that Congress needs to step up, and I'm willing to be there with the new solutions and plans to do that.
All right. We'll talk about maybe what Congress can do about some of those decisions and what the most important specific issues are to you to look at to run as a congressperson from the 3rd Congressional District, which, by the way of disclosure, is my congressional district also.
Ooh, great.
So there you go. 257-KWN, 257-5396. We're going to come on back, continue our discussion with Dr. Annette Teijeiro, making the big announcement that she is going to seek the Republican nomination for the 3rd Congressional District. Dr. Joe Heck was on just before her, making the big announcement that he will be running for the Republican nomination for the U.S. Senate. So we've got big announcements here this morning. We'll come on back to Dr. Teijeiro in just a moment. Right now, let's send it over to Mitch Kelly in the KDON 1 Nevada Credit Union Traffic Center. 7:50 in Newstalk 720 KDWN. I'm Alan Stock, and a good morning. Coming up at 8 o'clock, live Las Vegas with Chad Forster and Dave Carney, live from the Container Park downtown. Come on down, shake their hands, and say hello. They'd love to meet you down there. Joining me in studio right now is Dr. Annette Teijeiro. She is a candidate for the Republican nomination for the 3rd Congressional District, wanting to take the place that Joe Heck is vacating as he seeks the Republican nomination for the U.S. Senate. Big announcements today, all right here on the Alan Stock Show on Newstalk 720 KDWN. What are the big issues in your mind, very specifically? I mean, we all know medical care, we all know illegal immigration, but what do you want to focus on as some things to really hone in on that we must take care of right now?
Well, right now our government is spending a whole lot of time on issues that it shouldn't be into. So that's wasted energy, wasted resources. Our government needs to create the environment so that our small businesses can flourish. Because with prosperity comes the funding and the money. And
I agree
we
with
saw
that.
in 1980 when we lowered all those terrible restrictive and horrible governmental regulations. What we saw is a burst of American prosperity.
So what would you do specifically? What would you try to attain specifically? And if you're going to do some government cuts in the regulations, what specifically are you looking at?
Well, we have to create an environment where small businesses can flourish. Obamacare, for instance, and I'm bringing that up not just because I'm a physician and I can speak to it as to what it's accomplished and what it hasn't, but Obamacare has put an added burden on all small businesses. And it's put an added burden on individuals, because these individuals, people keep saying, oh, well, you know, the unemployment is down. But there are a lot of people that have a couple of part-time jobs. Well, that doesn't qualify
So
them.
what would you do? How would you correct that one thing right now?
That one thing right now would be to change the Obamacare individual mandate to open up the free market so that people can have a competitive health insurance market. But that's not the only thing that we can do. We can stop mandating what has to be in insurance. And I think that's the most important thing about Obamacare. The government decided what you had to have for coverage. Well, I got news for you. That meant that everybody's coverage, whether you had coverage before or you sought coverage now from the Obamacare website, everybody's premiums rose.
You know, we have a situation where they have the figure that is given to us, 5.2, 5.3% unemployment right now, and the president's crowing about how it's down so low, and we know that so many people are either unemployed or underemployed. We get that, and what we need is jobs, and Obamacare certainly has been a hindrance, even though you can keep your job or your doctor if you like it, and we're going to drop your premiums $2,500 per family when they're going up substantially, by the way, substantially. And we know all of that, but how would you go ahead and try to either attract more or create more jobs in America? I don't mean for the government to create it, but foster the private sector to create more jobs, or to have them created by importing them somehow. How could you do that?
Well,
and that is one of the biggest issues.
It is. It's a huge issue for America. Well, one of the things that we look at is there's a lot of American capital outside of the U.S. And one of the reasons that it's not brought into the U.S. is because of the way that our tax structure is. We have got to encourage, we've got to incentivize those companies to bring that capital back into the U.S. And that is one of the things that we can do in Congress, is rewrite those laws so that the taxation favors capital coming back in, innovation coming back in. You have to be able to incentivize by giving tax credits to big business so that they invest in educating their personnel, the up and coming, the science, technology, engineering, mathematical based jobs. Those are things that we used to be top of the heap. Now we're at the bottom because we're exporting all of that out. We need to bring that back home. That's the only way that we're going to be prosperous. There are tons of things that we can do in Congress. I'm not going to claim to be the only one with the only right answers, but we do have to start doing some of those things to bring back American prosperity.
And that's going to mean also having to face the fact that other countries are willing to pay less money for the labor that goes into the production of goods. And so that goes back to questions of tariffs and all that. I mean, we're going to have to look at how we create a more quote-unquote level playing field if we're going to create more jobs in this country and bring some of those manufacturing jobs back here.
Exactly. We are missing so many manufacturing jobs. Just here locally, not just for Congressional District 3, but all of Southern Nevada, there was a time when we were growing. And we were growing because we have great weather for all kinds of industry. You know, we don't have hurricanes, we don't have tornadoes, so call centers, all kinds of things that have to do with manufacturing of computers, everything that you could even imagine. And because we are in the middle of the West, we could be a hub for all kinds of industry. And yet, everything fell apart because our economy and our prosperity, everything's being exported outside of the country. We need to bring that back here.
Well, we need a president also that I think has a certain command that commands respect of the people throughout the world. And while this president went on an apology tour and got the Nobel Peace Prize at the very beginning of his presidency before he did anything at all, now it turns out that we have one of the least respected positions in the world right now. And I attribute it to one man. I mean, some people now like that. That's just one man. I gotta ask you this. I asked this to Dr. Joe Heck too, and I think this is an important question. There's a situation where a lady was killed in San Francisco last week by an illegal alien who had been deported 5 times. He was on probation. He was a criminal, and San Francisco knew that he was a criminal. ICE had marked him as an enforcement priority who should have been handed over immediately. But San Francisco has a soft policy on illegal aliens, and they don't always comply with the request. The truth is, they rarely do, because they're a city that is in and of themselves. They're, you know, what would you do to a place like San Francisco who refuses to go along with the federal law to return these people to ICE?
Well, you know,
Sanctuary cities, all of them.
Those sanctuary cities may have the wrong priorities. I can honestly say that tragically, the family of that young woman will admit to that. And a lot of people got very, very upset when Donald Trump made his comments. And you know the Don, he's very abrupt, and he may not be absolutely, how can I put it, PC in the way that he says things. And that's why some people like him. He does bring up those issues. As far as the federal government, when the federal government actually does its job, then the local governments don't have to do another job, another layer on that. Part of what you saw was incompetence on the immigration side. For whatever reason, they should have been tracking this guy the moment that
they
knew.
They were, and they requested it. And San Francisco is a sanctuary city, but they will not give them over. They are a sanctuary city. They will not turn over these people to ICE. What do you say to San Francisco? San Francisco receives federal dollars. What do you say to them?
Exactly. And if they receive federal dollars, even for their correctional system, then you put it in there. You've got to have something with teeth that says, if you do not comply with this order, then your funding will be terminated or your funding will be cut for this particular. That's what we can do. That's the only thing. We can't tell states exactly how they need to run their government, but you can cut off the financial.
But if they're not complying with the federal orders,
exactly.
And you can go ahead and at least tell them, if you're not in compliance, if you are a sanctuary city, you're going to be losing your funding, or at least have your funding frozen from the federal government.
Isn't that what people have done with transportation funds, with educational funds? That's our power. That's the power of the purse.
Exactly what the power is, and that's the libs have been using that. Democrats and Republicans have got to learn how to do it too. Dr. Annette Teijeiro, making the big announcement. She is running for the Republican nomination for the 3rd Congressional District. Dr. Joe Heck, just before that, making an announcement. He's running for the Republican nomination for the U.S. Senate here in the state of Nevada. And the best to you both. I wish you both of you the very, very best. And I appreciate your coming on this show to make the announcement.
Thank you so much, Ellen, and thank you to all your listeners. I look forward to seeing them on the campaign trail.